NBC Right Now. Your local news at 5.
A murder suspect is on the run after a shooting in Kennewick this morning. All the details next.
Investigators are on the scene of a second deadly shooting in Benton County, this time in Findlay. I'll have the details on that one coming up in just a few minutes.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Meredith Boggs.
I'm Shane Ettinger. It's been a busy day for law enforcement in Benton County. They're investigating two shootings right now, one this morning in Kennewick, the second this afternoon in Findlay.
Police are actively searching for a murder suspect in the Kennewick case. Jane Sander joins us now live from the East Kennewick duplex where the shooting happened. Jane.
Shane and Meredith, police found a dead body at this duplex at around 7:30 this morning and quickly began searching for the man they believe to be the killer. The victim is a 21-year-old male found with a gunshot wound to his head. The suspected murderer is 41-year-old Grant Wayne Scantling, who is now on the run. Police tell me Scantling is thought to be driving a maroon 2000 Jeep Cherokee with the license plate 594XDH. Kennewick police, along with several agencies across eastern Washington, are looking for Scantling in the Tri-Cities, Spokane, and everywhere in between.
We knew immediately who thought we were looking for, and we had an idea of what vehicle within the first 30 minutes of this crime. So we've alerted law enforcement, State Patrol, to local law enforcement agencies all the way from here to Spokane immediately.
Police say there is reason to believe Scantling and the victim knew each other. The name of the victim has not been released because his family is still being notified. Police want people to be warned that Scantling is considered armed and dangerous. If you see him or his maroon Jeep, please call 911. Live in Kennewick, Jane Sander, NBC Right Now.
Thanks, Jane. Meanwhile, in Findlay, Benton County deputies confirm one man is dead after a shooting around 2:30 this afternoon on East Bowles Road.
Tracy Dial joins us now live from the scene. Tracy, what can you tell us?
Well, Shane and Meredith, it's very early in the investigation so far. As you guys said, this happened just a couple hours after that Kennewick shooting. This one came in, shots fired. Calls came in about shots fired at 2:15 this afternoon, and we showed up just a few minutes after that, and this whole road was filled with police cars. As you can see, there's still quite a few of them left here. They say that when they arrived, there was one man dead, and it does appear he died from a gunshot wound, but they're not saying that anyone is on the loose. They did detain a few people for questioning and took them back to the sheriff's office. This is on East Bowles Road in Findlay. And that's about all the information that they have at this time, but they say more information should be released later on this evening. Live in Findlay, Tracy Dial, NBC Right Now.
Thank you, Tracy. Taking a look at some other headlines tonight. Yakima police have identified the woman found dead in an irrigation canal on Thursday. They say 62-year-old Valerie Winier accidentally drowned after falling into a canal and drifting for several blocks. The Yakima County coroner says there were no signs of trauma to her body, and he does not suspect foul play. A canal worker found Winier in the water near the Harmon Center early Thursday. Police say that she had been dead for less than a day. Police have also identified the man killed in downtown Yakima earlier this week. Police say 70-year-old David Lee Childs was stabbed and beaten to death, and his body was left in a flower planter off of North Front Street. Aaron Hilf spoke with friends of the victim today who say they're still in shock. Aaron.
Yeah, Shane, Childs was pretty well known here in the community, and his tragic death has stunned many of his close friends. Unfortunately, police still do not have any suspects or have any idea why he was murdered today, though. Those close friends are stunned and grieving, remembering a man who they say was one of the nicest people you could ever meet.
Dave was just a great guy.
David Childs loved shoes. In fact, he dedicated much of his adult life to them, even collecting about 600 pairs and displaying them at the Yakima Valley Museum during a 2-year exhibit.
And they are just incredible. And it was probably one of the most popular shows here in the time that I've been here.
John Ball is a longtime friend of David's and the museum's director.
We all just kind of sat there and looked at each other. We just heard it a little while ago, just this morning. So I don't think for all of us it's really totally sunk in that he's not going to be walking in the door again.
Ball says he was shocked to hear the news, blown away that his friend was the man found beaten to death in a downtown parking lot early Tuesday morning.
Nobody deserves it, but certainly this would be the last person in the world you'd ever want to wish anything like that on.
Ball says the 70-year-old longtime Yakima resident actually grew up in Iowa, but got a job at Nordstrom's in Yakima doing what else? Selling shoes.
Many families, many women, many children and whatnot all went to Dave for their shoes.
Just a guy who loved shoes, but in death remembered for so much more.
The nicest, sweetest man, do anything in the world for you. Just a great guy.
Now, it took investigators several days to identify Child's body, but they were finally able to do so after finding his name printed under a set of false teeth that he was wearing at the time of his death. Now that they have his identity, investigators are trying to put the pieces together to figure out exactly why he was murdered. In Yakima, Aaron Hilf, NBC Right Now.
This is breaking news.
We're just getting word into our newsroom from our sister station in Spokane that the suspect in this morning's shooting in Kennewick is now in standoff with police in Spokane. This is a live picture from North Spokane where police believe that 41-year-old Grant Wayne Scantling is holed up in a house there. Kennewick police say that Scantling was involved in a shooting this morning on East 8th Place. A 21-year-old man was killed in that incident. We will continue to monitor this situation in Spokane. We'll bring you more details as soon as we get them.
A Portland man who admitted to killing a Pendleton corrections officer has made a plea deal to avoid the death penalty. Prosecutors say they expect 23-year-old Joshua Weeks to face either life in prison or 30 years with the possibility of parole. Oregon State Police say Weeks stabbed and killed Buddy Huron back in November of 2011 when Huron stopped to help who he thought was a stranded driver on Highway 11 outside of Pendleton. A judge will sentence Weeks this summer.
Firefighters say working smoke alarms helped to get everyone out of a Kennewick apartment building this morning that caught fire. Firefighters say that blaze started in a laundry room in one of the units of the Cambridge Station apartments around 4 a.m. Firefighters say 4 units were damaged in the flames, but luckily no one was hurt.
The Federal Aviation Administration plans to shut down airport control towers in Yakima and Pendleton as a result of mandatory federal budget cuts. The FAA released the list of 149 air control towers that will shut down around the nation starting April 7th. Yakima air traffic will now be handled by air traffic controllers at SeaTac. New at 6 tonight, many people rely on GPS maps to get places quickly, but sometimes it isn't that easy, and in some cases, the maps may lead you to a road that isn't even built yet. But we found out that GPS isn't to blame. We'll explain tonight at 6. Well, it may be the first week of spring, but the west side of Washington was pounded with snow last night and early this morning.
The Department of Transportation closed down Snoqualmie Pass last night for 6 hours because of the icy conditions. Hail and light snow also fell in other areas. A possible tornado ripped through a barn in Vancouver. Luckily, we didn't see anything like that in our region, however. Let's check in with Tim Adams now for a first look at our forecast. Tim.
Well, hello there, Shane and Meredith. Yeah, compared to those other stories, we don't have very bad weather to talk about here in our area. We're talking about temperatures that are in the upper 40s and lower 50s around the area. Winds that have been gusting to 20 and 25 miles an hour, but that's far better than the heavier gusts that we had earlier on this week. Radar is picking up a very few isolated showers that are going to diminish shortly after sunset, and they're very spotty and very widespread, so hardly affecting anybody. Tomorrow is going to be mostly sunny skies. Still a little cool for this time of the year. Winds of 5 to 15 miles per hour, highs upper 40s, lower 50s. I'm back in a few minutes, and we'll talk about that extended outlook. Back to you there, Shane.
Thanks, Tim. Northwest News tonight, Boeing is planning to lay off about 800 workers in the Puget Sound area by the end of this year. The company announced today that it plans to cut another 1,200 to 1,500 jobs through attrition and other means. The job cuts will be mostly from the 747 and 787 jet programs in Everett. The company says production rates on those planes will not be affected. The Oregon Fire Marshal's office says that no one in Oregon under the age of 19 was killed in a fire during 2012. The Fire Marshal's report shows that this is the first year that no children were lost to fires in Oregon. 22 adults were killed in residential fires in Oregon last year. A third of them were 60 year or over. Oregon fires injured more than 200 people last year and caused more than $100 million in damages.
Governor Jay Inslee has ordered flags at all state and government buildings lowered to half staff for the next week in honor of former Governor Booth Gardner. Family members will hold a public service for Gardner next Saturday at the University of Puget Sound in Tacoma. Gardner died of complications from Parkinson's disease last week. He was 76 years old. Well, it's one of Central Washington University's hidden gems. Their surplus warehouse resells thousands of waste items and ultimately works to protect the environment. Laura Murray went to the warehouse today to see what types of items they collect. Laura.
Meredith, they take in a little bit of everything: old computers, scrap lumber, firewood, and even historical artifacts. Not only do community members benefit from these old materials, but so do our landfills. Trucks pull in and dump their loads in front of this warehouse.
Those came in, a lot of those items yesterday and the past couple weeks, and those are items that are scheduled to be palletized and shrunk wrapped.
It may just look like a pile of junk to you, but to people living in Ellensburg and even Yakima, it's a smart purchase.
A good functional flat panel monitor, we would sell that to you for $15.
Every day at Central Washington University's surplus warehouse, piles of so-called trash are sorted through, recycled, and reused. Even hazardous and universal waste are either properly disposed of or recycled. In 2012, CWU handled almost 5 tons of universal waste alone, like fluorescent bulbs and batteries.
To encourage the university staff and faculty and students to recycle, we've taken upon ourselves as a department to say we'll take care of the cost.
Last year, the university did its part for the environment by keeping 80 tons of reusable materials out of the landfills and into people's hands.
Tires, broken concrete, we sell firewood, scrap lumber, so it pretty much runs the gamut.
The material resource manager says between 200 to 500 people visit the warehouse monthly when they have an open bidding session. They're getting ready for the 4th public surplus sale of 2013. Live in the newsroom, Laura Murray, NBC Right Now.
Thanks, Laura. Well, still ahead tonight, an iconic dome in our area is being torn down.
And a 2-story structure will be taking its place. We'll have that story right after your forecast.
Coming up tonight now, it's control towers at airports closing because of government budget squabbles. We'll let you know which ones are on the list tonight.